Hey guys, when we last spoke, Joseph had just been sold to the traders who were traveling across the land. His brothers hated him so much that they wanted to kill him. But instead of killing him, they sold him as a slave. Then they took his coat, ripped it to shreds, dipped it in blood, and made their father think that Joseph had been killed by a wild animal. So Jacob did not know that Joseph was alive, but now he was far, far away in the land called Egypt. The traders sold Joseph to a man named Potiphar, who was the captain of the guard for Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. God was with Joseph, and he blessed him so that everything he did as he served in the home of his Egyptian master was good. Potiphar noticed this, and he saw that God was truly with Joseph. This was a big deal, because the Egyptians, they did not worship God. They worshiped many false gods, little g. He liked that God was with Joseph, and he decided to give Joseph a bigger and better job. Joseph ended up being in charge of everything in Potiphar's home, and God began to bless Potiphar's home and the people in it because of Joseph. Everything was going great. It was like Joseph was suddenly the king, and he could do anything he wanted, and he was in charge of everyone except Potiphar. Everything was going great for him. But life isn't perfect, and sometimes our plans get big holes in them. It feels like we're getting poked and all of the good is being spilled out and ruined. Speaking of spills, would you believe me if I told you that I could hold this bag of water over your head and I could poke it with this pencil and you wouldn't get wet? It seems impossible, doesn't it? But it's true, and I'm going to prove it. Are you ready? See? It's crazy. It's totally possible. I did not think it was when I first heard about this. I was like, there's no way. I could not figure it out. But faith is a lot like that. Sometimes it just doesn't seem like it's possible for God to do something. Like he's not going to answer our prayers. But our God can do anything. Nothing's impossible for our God. Nothing's too small and nothing's too big. We know what it's like to feel like holes are being poked into us. Friends move away, people we love get sick, or even like all this quarantine stuff where suddenly our regular lives are changed. You're not able to be with your friends at school. You're not able to go anywhere. It's hard. And it's tough and it hurts. And it's definitely not easy. But trusting God, it's like trusting that you wouldn't get wet when I hold this bag of water over your head. It might not make sense. You might not be able to figure out. But you choose to trust anyways. And we can trust God even when it seems like everything's going horribly wrong. He loves us and he cares for us, just like he loved and cared for Joseph. Everything was finally going right for him, and suddenly holes were poked into his life. Potiphar's wife was angry with Joseph because he would not do what she wanted, and so she lied. And because of her sin and her lie, Joseph was thrown into a jail. First, he was thrown in the well by his brothers, now into a jail. It's like he's on this big, giant roller coaster. 1 minute, everything's great, and then horrible, and then great again, and then awful again. So many holes are being poked into him. But he doesn't stop believing. He knows that he can praise God during the good times and the bad times, and that God will bless him and be with him in both. Because he has big plans for Joseph, and he has big plans for us. While Joseph's in jail, 2 men get thrown into jail as well. 2 Egyptians who worked for Pharaoh. They both had these crazy dreams, and they were telling Joseph about them. And Joseph, through the power of God, was able to tell them what the dreams meant. One, it was bad news. He was going to die. And in fact, unfortunately, he did. For the other, Pharaoh's cupbearer, it meant that he would live and that he would be freed. And it turned out to be true. And the guy was so happy and so grateful to Joseph that he said, I'm going to tell Pharaoh about you and they will set you free. And suddenly again, it's looking good for Joseph. But the guy forgot and he never told him. And Joseph was in that jail for years. But God's love was bigger. God's love, it goes longer than those years. And it's definitely bigger than the holes. His plan for Joseph did not stop because of other people's sin or because people lied or forgot about him. God never forgot about Joseph. And just when things seem like they can't go right, things are going to get better. So join me tomorrow when we find out what God has in store. Because there might even be a few more holes in the story. But God's got it all together. See you later.